Good evening, guys. Sunday evening. Welcome to Pawpaw Storytime to his grandkids and anybody else that wants to follow along with us. I'm just going to jump right in here. I didn't kind of set everything up, so hopefully I don't forget anything, so I didn't have it laid out. I just wanted to hurry up and get in here and get started. I've been thinking a lot about, it used to bother me. I write a blog too, and I do these story times, and the people that they're aimed at don't always get to see them or read them every single time, and it used to bother me. And I don't think it bothers me as much anymore because I know that they're still going to be here. Whenever I go through a box of old photos, there's not a whole lot of things that, there's not a whole lot of videos, especially something that's aimed directly at me or my siblings or my cousins from my grandparents. I have memories, but these are a little bit more personal. So even though my grandkids don't always get to watch everyone every single time, they're always here. They can go back and watch any of them that they want anytime they want to, even if it's when they're older. It's something that's going to be here. That makes me feel good that this is going to be here for them anytime they want it. We got to see Raylan and Lena over the weekend. It's been a few weeks since we had any of the grandkids, between Grandma Libby being sick and me having poison ivy. I got to call Uncle Chris and Uncle Skylar and try to talk about getting some of the other kids this next weekend. And, yep, I guess we're just going to jump right off into this. We're going to open with Don't Sweat Guide for Dads. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff Guide for Dads. We're on page 37. It's chapter 12. And it says, oh, hold on. I need to button that. Oh, it's a little funny, don't it? This one is called Say Please and Thank You. Manners count. It's not necessary or perhaps even desirable for your children to memorize books of etiquette. They don't need to behave formally, nor do they need to follow some arbitrary list of scrupulous rules. I'm going to have to look that up. Good manners are at heart just examples of civility, treating others with respect and courtesy, and they are learned, or not learned, most effectively at home. Two expressions that cannot be neglected in the home epitomize good manners: please and thank you. Within these words is something far more important and powerful than etiquette or politeness. Please and thank you express that the individuals matter and deserve to be treated as such. When you remind your children to say please and thank you, you are preparing them to respect others. Keep in mind that children learn most by example. You are their role model and the individual that they will most want to emulate. Treat your children with the same degree of manners you expect from them, and their appreciation will go a long way toward influencing their behavior. And this is very true. Say please and thank you. Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. Explain things. It doesn't always have to be because I said so. You know what I mean? So we're going to jump right off into, then we're going to read part 1 of A Curious George story. And this one is called Curious George Takes a Job. This is George. He lived in the zoo. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. He wanted to find out what was going on outside the zoo. One day when the keeper was not paying attention, George got a hold of the key for the cage. When the keeper discovered what had happened, it was too late. George was gone. There he is, running across the park, huh? Where was George? They looked for him everywhere, but they could not find him. That's a pretty big zoo, ain't it? And it's not as big as the one in Kansas City, but it's not as big as the one in Tacoma either. I don't know, I think I've been to a Denver zoo too when I was a little kid, but I don't really remember it. George was hiding in the hay of his friend the elephant. Finally, the keepers gave up looking for him. George found a nice cozy spot to sleep under the elephant's right ear, and the next morning before the zoo opened, he got away safely. Once in the street, George felt a little scared. What should he do in the big city? Maybe he could find his friend, the man in the yellow hat, who had brought him over from Africa a long time ago. Only George did not know where he lived. There was a bus stopping at the corner. George had never ridden on one. Quickly he climbed up a lamppost, jumped on top of the bus, and off they went. Now they were right in the center of town. There was so much to see that George did not know where to look first. If only he could go on riding like this forever. Boy, that's a pretty busy street, ain't it? But after a while, George got tired and a little dizzy. When the bus slowed down to turn into a side street, George jumped off. There was a restaurant right in front of him. Something smelled good. Suddenly, George felt very hungry. The kitchen door stood open and George walked in. On the table was a big pot. Of course, George was curious. He had to find out what was in it. When the cook came back, he had a big surprise. Spaghetti was all over the place, and in the middle of it was a little monkey. George had been eating yards and yards and had wound himself all up in it. The cook was a kind man and did not scold much, but George had to clean up the kitchen and do all the dishes. My, what a lot of them there were. The cook was watching George. "You're lucky to have 4 hands," he said. "You can do things twice as quickly." "I have a friend who could use a handy little fellow like you to wash windows. If you would like to, I will take you over to him." So they went down into the subway and took an uptown train to the cook's friend, who was an elevator man in a skyscraper. "Sure, I can use you," the elevator man said to George. "I will give you what you need for the job. You can start right away. But remember, you're here for washing windows. Never mind what people inside the house are doing. Don't be curious or you'll get into trouble." George promised to be good, but little monkeys sometimes forget. Give me just a second here, guys. I can't remember where the part 1 and part 2 is supposed to take off to. Start at. Give me just a second there, guys. 40, so we need 20, so we gotta go to 83. Thought I had a bookmark in it. I guess I don't. I'm gonna put it in there now, though. Okay. Sorry. And to continue on. George was ready to start. My, how many windows there were. But George got ahead quickly, since he worked with all 4 hands. He jumped from window to window just as he had once jumped from tree to tree in the African jungle. For a while, George stuck to his work and did not pay any attention to the people inside. Of course, he was curious, but he remembered his promise. Look at all them windows on that building. There he is, way up there at the top. In one room, a little boy was crying because he did not want to eat his spinach. George did not even look, but went right on his way to work. In another room, a man was taking a nap and snoring. George was sorry it was not his friend, the man with the yellow hat. He listened to the funny noise for a while and then he went on working. But what was going on in here? George stopped working and pressed his nose against the window. 2 painters were working inside. George was fascinated. Painting looked a lot more fun than washing windows. The painters were getting ready to go out for lunch. The minute they left, George climbed inside. What wonderful paints and brushes they had. George could not resist. Boy, this ain't going to be good. An hour later, the painters came back. They opened the door and stood there with their mouths wide open. The whole room had been changed into a jungle with palm trees all over the walls, and a giraffe and 2 leopards and a zebra, and a little monkey was busy painting himself on one of the trees. Then the painters knew what happened. He painted everything. I think we're going to start right back there to finish off the story and get the conclusion of Curious George Takes a Job next week. And our last reading today is going to be from A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the poetry of Fred Rogers. This one's called I'd Like to Be Like Mom and Dad. I'd like to be just like Mom. She's loving and she's bright. She knows just how to care for me and works to make things right. And Daddy likes the things that she does, the way she looks and gee. I'd like to be just like my mom and have someone like me. I'd like to be just like my dad. He's wise and he's kind. He knows just how to help me grow and does his work just fine. And Mommy likes the things he does, the way he looks and gee. I'd like to be just like my dad and have someone like me. It's pretty cool, right? And these pictures right here, that's Prince Tuesday. So if you guys watch Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, you'll know him from there. But his parents are King Friday and Queen Sarah. And we'll put this one back into the rotation too. And let me see what we got. Talk to you guys a little bit about the Kindness Magic mug that we bought at the Overland Park Street Fair for Artists, the art fair, with the little stirrer spoon. I'll try to remember to put it in the comments too, but if you read the description above the video here, it'll give you how to earn entries. We're going to do this. We're going to run it till about my birthday, and we'll see who wins and what. You can do different things to earn different numbers of entries. You can add a little small something to the prize pot if you want. You can buy, well, you don't have to buy. If you can get any of the stories from the Reading Rainbow collection that is also in there. All right, let me see. We're going to turn this around real quick. And we'll do the weekend song. I'll be back when the week is new, and I'll bring more ideas for you. And you'll have things you'll want to do, and I will too. I'll think of you when I'm not here, 'cause thinking of people makes them seem near. And the friends who know you love you cheerfully, and I do too. There's a whole bunch of the family right there from when we went to Great Wolf Lodge. Oh, we got a reading card. And I actually answered this one the other day. So, turn that one around. It says, and think about this. If you had 3 wishes, what would they be? It took me a minute. And my answer, I wrote that none of my kids or grandkids pass before I do. That's an important one for me, I think. My second one would be that after I do pass, that most people who knew me remember me warmly and caring. And number 3, that when my loved ones pass, that they are at peace and satisfied with the life that they had. I don't think that's asking too much. I don't want it to be like a genie wish. I want everything to be earned and everything to turn out that way. Let me see. I think that's it, guys. It was a good weekend. Looks like Uncle Skylar might be watching. I don't know if Savannah and Jace are watching too. Uncle Skylar, I got to get a hold of you later. And Uncle Chris, talk about maybe doing something with the kids next weekend. And guess that's it. I love you guys for being exactly who you're supposed to be, and you're the only ones that get to decide that. And remember that our books, our minds, just like our books, work better when they're open. See you guys next week.